Hey everyone, welcome back. Ever get that feeling like someone, somewhere, is trying to pull the wool over everyone's eyes?
Yeah, like the whole world's getting tricked at once.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today, this theory, this idea that claims just that. NASA's Project Bluebeam. You ever heard of this one?
Oh yeah, Project Bluebeam, it's been like floating around for years, right? Kind of an internet classic.
It really has, and for good reason. It's got this, this crazy mix of technology, manipulation, and, that fear we all have of losing control. But today we're going beyond the surface, really unpacking what this alleged project is all about.
What gets me about Project Bluebeam is how it mixes like science fiction with actual science. It makes you wonder, with all the deep fakes and stuff today, could someone actually pull this off?
Right. And the whole thing, it all traces back to this journalist, Serge Monast, who basically back in 1994 was like, I'm going to expose this whole thing.
Really? 1994?
Yeah.
That long ago?
Yeah. He lays out this whole plan, claims NASA's behind it, and then, get this, shortly after he starts talking about his findings, he dies.
Whoa. Seriously?
Dead. And they said it was a heart attack, but a lot of people thought, and still think, there was something else going on.
That's suspicious. Like, did they silence him?
People thought so, for sure. And to make it even weirder, another journalist looking into this same thing happened. Died suddenly around the same time. So.
No way. That's too much of a coincidence. Makes you wonder if there's something they didn't want people finding out.
Totally. And that's why we're here today, to dive in. So according to Monast, this whole Project Bluebeam, it's about using advanced tech, like way advanced, to stage this giant global hoax. And the goal, to create a new world order.
New world order, huh? So like one world government controlling everything.
Seems the theory, yeah. And to pull it off, Monast said they'd use these 4 steps, each one building on the last
Until everyone's so freaked out, they'll accept anything. Okay, I'm hooked. What's step 1?
Step 1, are you ready for this? Starts with massive earthquakes. But these aren't just any earthquakes.
Okay, so what makes these earthquakes so special? We talking like California falling into the ocean kind of earthquakes?
Think bigger. We're talking strategically placed, devastating earthquakes all over the globe. And the thing is, Monast claims these earthquakes, they're man-made.
Man-made earthquakes? How is that even possible?
He doesn't really say, but he claims they'd use these earthquakes to uncover new archaeological discoveries. Think ancient artifacts, lost texts, things that completely contradict what we know about history, religion, everything.
So it's like planting evidence, but on a global scale. Make people question everything they thought they knew. That's messed up, but also kind of genius.
Right. And he even said that movies like 2001, A Space Odyssey, or even Jurassic Park.
Wait, Jurassic Park? What's that got to do with anything?
Monast claimed these movies, they were putting the idea in our heads, getting us ready for these discoveries, planting seeds of doubt about, like, the origin of life, evolution, you name it.
Wow, so everyone's freaking out about these discoveries, questioning everything. What happens next? What's step 2 in this crazy plan?
This is where things get really wild. Step 2, he called it the space show. Basically, imagine giant holograms projected onto the sky, visible to everyone on the planet.
Hold up, holograms? In the sky? Like how? That sounds impossible.
Monast was a little fuzzy on the details, but he suggested they'd use some crazy tech, maybe even natural phenomena like the aurora borealis, or maybe even satellites equipped with, like, super lasers.
Okay, I kind of see how they could maybe do that, but why? What's the point of a giant global late show?
This is the real mind-bender. He said these holograms, they wouldn't just be random images, they'd be tailored to each region of the world, showing religious figures, deities, whatever, would resonate with the local beliefs.
So you're telling me people would look up and see, like, their version of a messiah, a global second coming?
That was his claim, that it'd be like this massive, awe-inspiring, terrifying event, people seeing miracles with their own eyes.
And how would they explain it? Wouldn't people be skeptical? I mean, come on, a holograms in the sky.
That's where those religious studies come in. Monast said they'd use them, these images, to deliver specific messages, maybe about humanity straying from the path, needing guidance, that kind of thing.
So it's not just a show, it's like this whole orchestrated message from whoever's behind it. Man, this is wild. But, we've got to ask, is any of this even possible? Like holographic projections on that scale?
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, it's something we should probably unpack a bit more. I mean, on the one hand, you've got these almost unbelievable visuals, like something out of a movie.
Right. It's like Independence Day meets, I don't know, the Book of Revelations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then there's this other side, this question of could they actually do that? Like, is the technology even close?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting, because while projecting a full-on, deity in the sky might be a bit of a stretch.
At least for now.
Yeah, at least for now. But the basic idea, using things like lasers and sound waves to create illusions, that's not science fiction anymore.
So they've messed with our heads, made us question everything we thought we knew, and now there are giant holograms in the sky.
Don't forget the earthquakes.
Oh, right. The earthquakes. It's like they're hitting us with everything they've got. But what's the point? What are they trying to achieve with all of this?
Well, that's where step 3 comes in. And this is where things get really, personal.
Personal how?
Because step 3 is all about our minds. Monast called it telepathic, electronic, two-way communication.
Telepathic what now? Sounds intense.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. Basically, Monast believed that they, whoever they are, would use technology to directly influence our thoughts and emotions.
Wait, hold on. Are we talking about actual mind control here? Like, are they reading our thoughts?
Not quite reading our thoughts, but
Yeah.
maybe influencing them.
How would they even do that?
So that's where those ELF waves we talked about earlier come in.
ELF waves, the radio wave things.
Yep, those ones. See, ELF waves have this unique ability. They can actually pass through, solid objects.
Okay, so like through buildings and stuff?
Through buildings, through walls, even through our skulls.
Okay, that's a little creepy.
Wait.
But how do you go from radio waves to mind control?
Well, Monast claimed that by targeting ELF waves at very specific frequencies, it'd be possible to trigger certain thoughts, feelings, even hallucinations. Like, imagine hearing a voice in your head, clear as day, and you're convinced it's God talking to you.
Okay, that's seriously freaky. But is there any truth to that? I mean, can ELF waves actually do that?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And honestly, the science is kind of all over the place.
So it's possible.
It's definitely an area of active research. Even today, there have been studies looking at ELF waves and their potential effects on, mood, sleep, that sort of thing.
Right.
But whether they can be used for full-on mind control, that's still up for debate.
Okay, so maybe not. But
Yeah.
Either way, it's not exactly a comforting thought.
Definitely not. And remember, we're talking about technology that's constantly evolving, getting more sophisticated every day. So who knows what they might be able to do in the future, right?
Okay, so they're messing with our minds. They're showing us crazy stuff in the sky. What's left? What's the end game here?
Well, Monast believed that all of this, everything we've talked about so far, was just a prelude to the real event, the grand finale, if you will, he called it. Are you ready for this?
Hit me.
The supernatural manifestations.
Supernatural manifestation. Okay, now you're just messing with me. What does that even mean?
I know, it sounds crazy, right? But this is where Project Bluebeam takes a hard turn into, well, the supernatural.
Okay, I am officially intrigued and maybe a little scared.
I don't blame you. See, Monast believed that in this final stage, they would use technology to basically simulate a series of supernatural events on a global scale.
Simulate. Like fake.
Like fake, but so real, so convincing that people would believe it's actually happening. All designed to push people to the absolute breaking point. The first stage, he said, would be a fake alien invasion.
Wait, what? Aliens?
Monast believed they would use a combination of holograms, advanced sound systems, maybe even some kind of weather manipulation technology to create the illusion of alien spacecraft appearing all over the world.
Okay, that's a lot. But why go through all that trouble? What's the point of faking an alien invasion?
To sow chaos, basically. To make people question everything, even their own governments. Monast believed they would then stage a series of attacks on major cities, using those same holograms and sound systems to create the illusion of, laser beams and explosions and...
So like a fake war,
Yeah.
but with aliens. And we're supposed to just believe it's real.
Well, remember those religious figures they were projecting in the sky? Monast believed they would use those same images to, deliver messages of impending doom, warnings about how humanity has strayed from the path, that kind of thing. It's like they'd be using our own beliefs against us.
That's incredibly manipulative.
Exactly. And Monast believed it would work. He thought that with the world on the brink of what looked like an actual alien invasion, people would panic, governments would overreact.
And then what?
Yeah.
What happens when the aliens attack?
Well, Monast thought that in the chaos and confusion, they would then stage a second event, something even more targeted and even more disturbing. He called it the staged rapture.
The rapture. As
Well,
in like the biblical rapture.
Exactly. Monist claimed that while the rest of the world was busy freaking out about aliens, they would target specific religious groups, particularly Christians, with a simulated rapture event.
Wait, so you're telling me they're going to make people think they're being lifted up to heaven? How?
Again, Monist was vague on the specifics, but he suggested they'd use a combination of holograms, sound, maybe even some kind of electromagnetic manipulation to create the illusion of people ascending into the sky.
So you'd be walking down the street, look up, and see your neighbor floating away.
Essentially, yes. Can you imagine the chaos, the fear, the utter breakdown of society as we know it?
Okay, I admit it's a pretty terrifying thought. So you've got a fake alien invasion, a staged rapture. What's left? What could possibly be worse than all of that?
This is where it gets really interesting and really unsettling, because Monist believed that the third stage, the final stage of these supernatural manifestations, would be the most terrifying of all, because it would target the one thing we all rely on, our own minds.
Okay, I'm listening. What do you mean target our minds?
Well, this is where Monist's claims really cross the line from, like, science fiction into the truly bizarre. He believed that in addition to all this technology, all these simulated events, they would also use some kind of supernatural forces.
As in, like,
Yeah,
ghosts?
you got it.
Yeah.
Monist believed that they would use technology to essentially unleash mass hallucinations of demonic entities.
Hold on. Demonic hallucinations? Like people thinking they're being possessed by demons?
Basically, yes. He described it as like a technologically assisted demonic possession on a global scale.
Okay, now this is what I have to ask.
Mm.
Is there any evidence for this? I mean, demonic hallucinations, it all seems a bit far-fetched, even for a conspiracy theory.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is definitely the most, shall we say, out there part of Monast's theory. And honestly, it's where most people, even those who entertain the idea of Project Bluebeam, kind of draw the line.
So what are we supposed to make of all of this? Is any of it even remotely possible? I mean, on the one hand, you've got these almost cinematic descriptions of like global events, advanced technology, even supernatural elements. It's a lot to wrap your head around, you know?
It is. It really is. And I think it's important to remember that Monist himself was like doubly suspicious of what he saw as these powerful forces working behind the scenes, you know. He saw this whole Project Bluebeam thing as the culmination of this long-standing agenda to like control and manipulate the masses.
But is there any evidence, anything at all, to suggest that any of this, even a fraction of it, could be real? Because I got to admit, we've talked about some pretty far out stuff today, but some of the technology Monist described, like those ELF waves, it doesn't seem entirely outside the realm of possibility.
You're right, and it's not just ELF waves. You brought up something earlier I think it's worth revisiting. Remember that Washington Post article from like 1999, the one you mentioned?
Oh, yeah. The one about the military using voice morphing and holograms, right, for psychological operations.
Exactly. Now, that article, well, it doesn't, confirm or deny Project Bluebeam. It does give us this little glimpse into how governments, especially militaries, are already using, pretty advanced tech for psychological manipulation.
So they're already using some of the stuff Monist was talking about, but in the real world.
In a way, yeah. Like, the article talks about creating these fake audio recordings that are, like, indistinguishable from the real thing, even projecting holographic images onto battlefields to confuse enemy troops. Crazy, right?
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, like, if that's what they're telling us about, what else are they working on?
Exactly. And that's what makes Monist's claims so unsettling. Because even if he was wrong about, the specifics, the underlying idea that someone could use technology to manipulate us on that scale, it's not that far-fetched.
So where does that leave us? I mean, should we be looking at the sky, waiting for the holographic deities to appear?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. It's important to remember that this whole Project Bluebeam thing, as Monast described it, it's still just a theory. There's no concrete evidence, no smoking gun to suggest that it's anything more than that. But, and this is a big but, the questions it raises, the questions about like the potential for manipulation, the blurring lines between what's real and what's not, those are more relevant than ever.
Especially in the age of deepfakes, AI, all these algorithms designed to, keep us scrolling, keep us consuming.
Exactly. We live in a world where information is like constantly being filtered, manipulated, even weaponized. So while I wouldn't lose sleep over, holographic aliens and staged rapture events, I do think it's smart to be aware, to be cautious, But it's more than that. It's about cultivating like a healthy sense of skepticism, not just of the information itself, but also the source. Who's saying it? Why are they saying it?
That's a really good point. So it's not about living in fear of some like grand conspiracy. It's about empowering ourselves to be like more discerning.
Exactly. And that's what I love about these deep dives. It's not about telling anyone what to think. It's about giving you the information, the different perspectives, and letting you form your own conclusions.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've definitely taken a deep enough dive for one day.
I agree.
From fabricated earthquakes and holographic displays to ELF waves and demonic hallucinations, it's been a wild ride through the world of Project Bluebeam. But that's it for today. Join us next time when we'll take another deep dive into a topic that's sure to make you think, question, and maybe even take a closer look at the world around you. Until then, stay curious, stay engaged, and most importantly, keep asking those tough questions.